and welcome to Megan's Social Media Marketing Show. Today, I have a very meaty episode for you. I would love to give you my 8 tips for effortless social media. This is based upon Greg McKeown's new book, Effortless. Now, his first book, Essentialism, came out in 2014. It is the disciplined pursuit of less, teaching you how to achieve more by doing less. And who does not want to do that? Am I right? So I have read and reread Essentialism. I love all the principles in it, and I was chomping at the bit to get my hands on his new book, Effortless, and it does not disappoint. I highly recommend reading both books. Read Essentialism first, then Effortless, because the concept behind Effortless is if you have created, or I should say, if you have removed everything that's non-essential from your life and you're still having a hard time keeping up, you're getting overwhelmed, which can happen if you have a large family, many kids, lots of priorities. Many things can be essential. So he wrote this book to help us figure out how to make it easier to do what matters most. And I could not help but think about you guys, the entrepreneur, the mompreneur, the small business owner, as I was reading this, and how you could make social media effortless. Because if there's one thing that I hear over and over is that you are overwhelmed with all the things you have on your plate. You know you need to grow your social media following and work on that to grow your business, but you're overwhelmed by all the things that need to be done. So these are my 8 tips for making your social media effortless. The first section in the book is on achieving effortless state. This is focusing on what matters most with ease, doing your work with ease. Some may say getting in a flow. And we have this prejudice around things being hard. We assume for things to be done right, they must be hard, but that's not always the case. In fact, the problem is often that we're trying too hard. I know for a fact, if you're a small business owner or an entrepreneur, your issue is not that you're slacking off. It's maybe you're getting in your own way and making things more complicated than they have to. A quote from the book I really love is that we are conditioned over the course of our lifetime that in order to overachieve, we must overdo. As a result, we make things harder for ourselves than they need to be. Amen. Preach, right? So Greg is teaching this one mindset flip that I have been asking myself on repeat ever since hearing it. And the mindset is, what if this could be easy? What if it could be easy? Let's not assume that it's going to be hard to accomplish this thing that's overwhelming us. What if it could be easy? Or another way to ask this question is, how am I making this harder than it needs to be? So my effortless social media tip number 1 is ask yourself, what if this could be easy? Or am I making this harder than it needs to be? The one thing I think we do all the time is assume that social media requires us to be on all the things all the time. That's where overwhelm comes. What we can do is start on one platform and get really good at that one platform and get really consistent and make sure that we're showing up there. And if that then starts to feel easy, we can move on and grow from there. But trying to do all the things all the time is what makes it hard on social media. So make it easier on yourselves. The next concept is that we often think too that we can't enjoy ourselves while we're working for some point. So, as Greg says, we need to accept that work and play coexist. This makes a lot of sense on social media because we get distracted constantly, or at least I do every time I open the app because I want to have fun on the app. So, my effortless social media tip number 2 is to gather inspiration while you're scrolling for fun. So, allow yourself that time to have fun. Allow yourself the time to gather inspiration. So much in creative work is a matter of being inspired, of cultivating the things that you know will work well for, maybe they're in a different industry, but they would work well for your industry. You could translate it that way. And you need that blue sky time to relax and enjoy and consume content so that you can find inspiration for your own. So embrace it and have fun and scroll. The next concept is definition, defining. So often, what we do in a day is we get to the end of it and we are in despair because we have 30 more things on our to-do list that we didn't get to. However, we got many, many things done that day, and we tend to forget that. So one of his tips is having a done for the day list. Defining, what does it mean? What is the beginning and the end? So often we do that in going into any project is we just start in and don't really define what those metrics are. So my effortless social media tip number 3 is creating a checklist for engagements so that you can be done for the day, quote unquote. So much social media advice is wrapped around engaging, getting out there, commenting, liking on your potential followers' post. But if you just sit down to start doing it, it becomes overwhelming. Again, you get distracted. You're not sure if you accomplish what you were meant to accomplish. So create a checklist for yourself. And even you could employ a timer. That is also a good approach. So say set it for 15 minutes and you have your checklist of, I am going to comment on, maybe you have top 3 hashtags that you know are really engaging or are really active in your niche. So you go to those top 3 hashtags and your checklist is to comment on the last 5 posts that are relevant to what you're doing and like the top 20. That could be your checklist for the day. And you could say, I am done. I have accomplished it. And you could check off engagement for the day. It would feel, and it does feel, so satisfying. The next concept is to simplify. As he says, to simplify the process, don't simplify the steps, simply remove them. This goes back to making things more complicated than they need to be oftentimes, and seeing if you actually need to do the thing that you're doing. So my effortless social media tip number 4 is to eliminate the things you don't actually have to do. One example, I know that can sound not very concrete, but one example is photography. I get asked so many times, how do you find good photos? How do you take good photos? Should I use stock photography? Many times as business owners, unless you are a photographer, that's not why you got into the particular business you're in. You may not be as handy with a smartphone as many other people, and it can be difficult to find images. So my tip for that is not trying to take gorgeous images. Eliminate that from the equation altogether. 9 times out of 10, a selfie that you take on your phone just by holding your hand out is more than enough to get you by because people really want to connect with you and your face. What you could also do is pay a designer to give you graphic templates, and you could have 20, 30 different types of designs that you can cycle through because you don't technically really even have to have photography. The next concept is pace. So this is the concept of creating guardrails or upper and lower bounds for what you're doing so you don't overwhelm yourself, stress yourself out. As he says, never do less than X, never more than Y. So creating those boundaries can help us to make sure that we're not overextending ourselves in one day so much that then we can't recover in the next. So my effortless social media tip number 5 is set a range of posts per week and stick to it. One example I have for you is for the Hope Writers community, which is an online community of writers. And I manage their social media for nearly 3 years. And when I started, they were at a couple thousand followers. And it has now since grown over 40,000 followers. And I did that by keeping a very specific pace. I never posted fewer than 4 posts per week on their Instagram, and never more than 2 posts per day. Now, that may sound like a lot, but when we were in the seasons where we were opening up the membership and welcoming people in, or we had something new that we were launching and we're really excited about, we could talk about it multiple times per day. So there were many, many, many 4-post weeks, but we never went over twice per day. And just keeping that steady, consistent posting helped us to grow over time and not burn ourselves out so that I was too exhausted and I just couldn't post for several weeks. The next concept is learn the principles, not just the facts and methods. So what this does is you don't need to know all the details and all the how-tos if you know the general principles of how things work. On social media, this helps you to not get distracted with all the trends and the new shiny platforms. So my effortless social media tip number 6 is weigh the new trends with what you know to be true of your ideal customer. There are, it seems more and more every year, new platforms that come up, such as in the past year, Clubhouse has been hugely popular. And what you have to do when something like that comes new to the scene is weigh, is this something that I know my potential customer or my potential follower will be really interested in? And is it something that I have the capacity to take on right now? Not just assuming that, ooh, it's hot and new, which means I need to do it, but stopping and weighing, is this a place that your customer, and if you know them really well, is going to flock to, and then making the decisions that way. The next concept is automating, freeing up space in your brain by automating as many essential tasks as possible. I'm a huge proponent of this because I would say 75% of everything I do on social and for my clients is automated. That means that I batch create, I create a bunch of posts at once, and then I have a social media scheduler to then schedule to post them for me on the different platforms. So my effortless social media tip number 7 is subscribe to a social media scheduler. It's just delightful because it's like a little robot that you hire to go do your bidding on all the platforms and you don't have to think about it or touch it. You definitely show up daily with your checklist that we talked about earlier and engage with the comments and see what's happening on those posts, but you don't have to physically be there on the platform to post it yourself. And our last and final concept is prevent. As you may have heard the old adage, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So effortless results will not come if you are fixing problems constantly. And let me tell you, with social media being an electronic medium, a piece of technology, an online software, it has glitches. And particularly right now, Instagram's glitches are very frustrating and happen all the time. I'm not kidding you. I encounter them daily because of how they're changing the platform right now and all the updates they're making. So my advice, or the effortless social media tip number 8, is save your work somewhere off social media. This happens even with the best of schedulers sometimes, is that a glitch happens or the actual social platform glitches and the post is gone, or it posted without the caption and you lost the caption, what have you. There's all kinds of things that could happen. But if you save your work on even the Notes app of your phone or a Google Doc, somewhere that is not the social media platform itself or inside your scheduler, then you are able to recover very quickly, pull that information again, and repost it without much bother. So that was a lot, guys. We covered so much in this episode. And just to give you a really quick review of all the effortless social media tips. Number 1, ask yourself, what if this could be easy? Am I making this harder than it needs to be? Number 2, work and play at the same time. Gather inspiration by scrolling for fun. Number 3 is create a checklist for engagements so that you can be done for the day. Number 4 is to eliminate any unnecessary steps and simplify the process as much as possible. Number 5 is to set a range of posts per week and stick to it. Number 6 is to weigh new trends with what you know to be true of your ideal customer. Number 7 is to subscribe to a social media scheduler. And number 8 is to save your work somewhere off social media. I hope, guys, this helped to make you and your social media so much more effortless. I hope just even hearing me breathe these words of calm, of simplicity, of anti-overwhelm over you is helping you to even think more positively about what and how much more you could accomplish with, well, let me put it this way, effortlessly. Thank you so much for being here today.